Hey y'all, welcome to my channel, Brandon About Everything. I'm Brandon, and I'm interested in everything. So before we get in, I just want to reiterate that this is the fourth episode in the series, and it's not going to, most of what I say is building episode upon episode. So you're not going to understand the full context of what I'm saying here, probably, unless you've watched the previous episodes. So, the second thing I need to say before getting into it is that all of this is just my perspective and my understanding. I am a human, therefore, I am almost certainly going to be getting something wrong. And that's okay, and that's just going to be what it is. So, take it for what it is, and let's get into it. So, last time we discussed what I referred to as the harvest or ascension, graduation, the rapture, the end times, the apocalypse, the end of the age, I'm blanking. The Kali Yuga is the one that we're coming out of. I'm blanking on the Golden Age, but yeah, whatever terminology you use to describe it, I believe that is this threshold of huge change that we are upon as a planet and a civilization, a species. When the metaphorical Garden of Eden happened and humans became aware of the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, that started the process of our relationship with time, at least in the way that it is has been for millennia. That you can only understand that something is good or bad by understanding the fallout from it, the consequences, and its impacts. Um, and so the becoming aware of good and evil made us aware of, oh well, if I do this thing, it's going to cause negative consequences to me in the future. And therefore now I'm invested in time and I'm thinking about it that way. Then in the early Middle Ages, early Middle Ages roughly, we were able to invent accurate enough timepieces, clocks, mechanical gears and whatnot necessary to really create really accurate measurements of time. Before that, we did have the concept of things like hours, but they were not the precise things that we think of today. It was like an hour is like a chunk of time, a portion of the day, roughly 1/12 of the daylight hours, and roughly 1/12 of the nighttime. So then with the invention of these really good, accurate timekeeping pieces, we became much more centered on the flow of time and paying attention. We changed our relationship to time. Now, obviously, it didn't happen all across the globe at the same time. You know, it started, as far as I understand, in medieval Europe, and it would have just been monks and scholars and maybe some royal and nobles that would have been genuinely impacted by this. But it gradually diffused throughout most of eventually all of the European culture, and then from there throughout other other cultures. Even today, there are still some small segments of the population in this world that are not connected to time the way that the rest of us are, and the rest of us have been for hundreds of years. But the vast majority of the world is tightened up with that. So after the Middle Ages, the next big thing that happened to shift our perception of time, I do believe that the Renaissance had some to do with it, but really, well, more it was about the Renaissance laying the foundation for what would then become the Industrial Revolution down the road. And that Industrial Revolution is what really accelerated our relationship with time to what it is today. With all of the trains running from city to city in the early 1800s, late 1700s, right around then, previously, every city had noon was halfway between dawn and dusk, sunrise and sunset. And midnight was halfway between on the other side during the night. So what happened with trains coming about is that cities that were not very far apart would be 2 or 3 minutes off from each other, because one was a little further east than the other, and therefore the noon was 2 or 3. The noon point was 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 minutes earlier than the other city. So it created problems, as I'm sure you can imagine. Not only that trains were being late, which is a relatively minor issue, but that if the company is expecting this train to be on this track at this time, and because time zones hadn't been invented yet, the time disparity from city to city was affecting things. There wasn't a set standard of time. So some British people created the Greenwich Meridian to be the single standard for time. And the line goes through an observatory in Greenwich outside of London, I believe. That line is the noon point on that line is the noon, now applied to the noon point for all 1/24th of the Earth's surface, the chunk of the Earth's surface, running down north through south. So that, and then from there, they chopped up the rest of the globe into 24 roughly even strips that would be called time zones. So rather than as you're driving west, your noon point is getting a few minutes, 2 or 3 minutes later each city that you come across. Rather than doing that, now there's the same time continuously until suddenly you hit a border. And now, let's say, for instance, you go from Eastern time in the United States to Central time. And so you change 1 hour. That was an invention, and it changed our relationship with time. That we are on the precipice of another shift in our relationship to time. It's really about getting into the now. But this video is already long enough, so I think I'm going to go ahead and press pause on this. That'll be all for episode 4. I hope you've enjoyed it, and y'all have a good day.